Chapter 3, Part 6. Saya's Digimon dog was home to a dinosaur-like Digimon called Agumon. Kosuke's held a ladybug-like Tentomon, and Yulin's held a Palmon. Palmon looked like... well, it looked like what it was, the result of a genetic experiment between a reptile and a flower. Its feet split into several root-like tendrils. Its arms were veiny leaves from which sharp talons extended, and a massive flower grew out of the center of its reptilian head. Professor Ryosenji and his students gathered around a table in the test chamber, sipping tea as they went through a debriefing of Saya's latest mind-link experiment. Unlike biotech experiments or semiconductor manufacturing, Digimon research didn't require a clean room. It did, however, require high-speed internet, servers with plenty of headroom, and a rock-solid power supply. Well, that completes the battery of tests we set out for the three of us, Yulin said, checking the schedule. They were getting used to the process of transferring their consciousness to their partner's Digimon's core and experiencing the world through their senses. We've successfully mind-linked in a controlled test environment, both in the lab and by not leaving the confines of the Digimon dog, Kosuke said, picking up the device with his Tentomon in it. Though the tests were successful, all the students had experienced through their partner Digimon were the small quarters of the Digimon dogs themselves, which we experienced as a heavily pixelated black and white image accompanied by the hiss of static and other assorted noise. Yulin interjected. And that's a hardware problem. We need more processing power, Kosuke said, bristling at what he perceived to be the start of an argument. So you still have yet to see the digital world with your own eyes, Professor Ryosenji said to no one in particular. The goal remained the same. Leave the digital dog and explore the digital world firsthand. Set their Digimon free from the Digimon dog and out into their natural habitat on the net. That meant they would also need to learn to maintain control of their partner Digimon. If a Digimon escaped or the students were otherwise careless with their charges, that would be the end of it. There were no second chances. The three of them had to prove they could handle their Digimon with the precision of a team landing a probe on a small planet. I wonder if the landscape of the digital world will even look anything like we recognize, Yulin said, half daydreaming. She could conjure an image in her brain, so long as it looked like Earth or any of the other planets in the solar system, but she had no idea what the digital world could possibly look like. All they'd seen of it to date were heaps of numerical values on a screen. The digital world has its own systems, the professor said softly. I beg your pardon, Professor? All three of them turned to look at him. I hypothesize that it has something akin to our food chain. Survival of the fittest. These AI creatures fight with one another to see which is stronger. The stronger survive, while the weak sometimes perish. So in the end, Professor Ryosenji said, trailing off and letting his students fill in the gap, that it wasn't so different from Earth. It had its own ecosystem capable of sustaining life, and the top priority was to experience it for themselves. Kosuke is overseeing development of the Digimon control tools, which proceeds apace. Several Digimon have been let loose in the digital world, found elsewhere via the network, and returned safely. This has produced a rich trove of data, Professor Ryosenji continued. They were little boomerangs now, venturing afield, but able to find their way back. The discovery came not from cameras attached to the critters, but analysis of the data harvested from the Digimon themselves. How many have we failed to retrieve, Kosuke? Yulin asked bluntly. With the current toolset and navigation systems, I just say that our success rate is above 80%, Koska answered. Perfection was too much to ask for from software currently under development, let alone software being developed for an entirely unfamiliar world. Like humanity's race to the moon, Professor Ryosenji said. The first manned rocket in the Apollo program, Apollo 1, was actually the fourth such craft, and was due to be the third manned spaceflight. It never flew. A fire in the cabin killed all 3 astronauts during a routine test. Dad, Saya said, unsure of where this morbid anecdote was headed. That's a pretty dark story to just throw out there like it won't jinx us, Elin said, furrowing her brows. Several more unmanned test flights launched in the interim. The next crewed flight was Apollo 7, which successfully landed into Earth orbit. Apollo 8 successfully launched and orbited the moon multiple times before returning. It was the first flight to completely leave Earth's orbit, survey the dark side of the moon, and give humanity a glimpse of Earth from afar. The crew watched Earth rise from the moon's horizon. This is where we find ourselves in our efforts to observe the digital world. Much as the Earth could not be seen from the dark side of the moon, they wished to immerse themselves in and observe the digital world over the net, where they would be unable to see what was happening in the real world. They dubbed this endeavor the Tartarus program. If Apollo represented the sun, then this was a deep dive to find Tartarus in the underworld, somewhere in the vast seas of the net. The program's success would mean nothing less than humanity's arrival in the digital world, a monumental achievement to rival that of humanity's arrival on the moon. This was just the first significant step. Yulin, Saya, and Kosuke knew what had to be done. The 3 of them were about to become cybernauts in the digital world. The night before the Tartarus program truly kicked off, Yulin, Kosuke, and Saya visited the plot of land on which Tokyo University of Electrical and Computer Engineering was to be built in the Denrin district. Their breaths hung in the frigid air. Wow, they're going to build a whole university right here, Saya mused, spreading her arms wide to emphasize the scale of a whole university. Yet another shiny new structure amid all the development that was Tokyo. The plot had already been cleared, but the foundation had yet to be laid. It was strange to see so much space without another building, nor even a tree, in the way. Heavy machinery and a store of materials set off to one side. The 3 of them stood in the quiet of night, keenly aware they were the only ones here. The night sky stretched out over the lights of the city, a vast window to infinite darkness. Still looking pretty empty, Kosuke said as he looked out over the plot. He jammed his hands into his pockets of his downcoat and shivered slightly. There weren't any convenience stores or houses in this area yet. The only other structures were prefab buildings meant to serve as offices for construction workers. The light of a vending machine caught Kosuke's eye. He walked over to it. Yulin turned off the engine and stepped out of the white company car. She was the only one with a driver's license, and so it fell to her to make this trip a reality. What possessed you to want to come all the way out here tonight, Saya? Aren't you curious about the place we might be working in someday? I just wanted to check it out. Yeah, hard to picture it now, but I guess we will be working here, Yulin said quietly. Once the university was moved and fully established, the goal was to establish a so-called venture village, with multiple office buildings in the area for businesses to move into. The Tokyo University of Electrical and Computer Engineering, true to its name, would house a supercomputer and a massive data center in order to attract prospective students. Those same pieces of equipment would also serve to propel the next stage of Professor Ryosenji's research. This is the only chance we'll get to see this empty, before so many things and lives fill it all up, Saya said, waxing poetic. Uh-huh, Yulin said absent-mindedly. I hope we'll still be together 10 years from now, Saya said. She gripped her Digimon dog lightly in her hand. See this, Agu? There's gonna be a whole new town right here. It'll be called the Denrin District. I hope it'll be easy for you and all the other Digimon to live in. The small pixelated dinosaur on the dock screen appeared to be looking back and forth, as though wary of its surroundings. You talk to that thing all the time, huh? Yulin said, turning to Saya. You mean you don't talk to Palmon? Saya shot back. Well, Yulin started. She'd honestly never really thought about talking to her partner Digimon. They wouldn't realize it until much, much later, but the mind-linking they'd been engaging in to this point would be considered incomplete by the current standards, on account of the first version of the Digimon dog's lack of features and slow network speeds. Direct conversation with partner Digimon would have to wait for the increased processing and network performance of a future Digivoice. Saya was the first among them to recognize Digimon communication as an important feature, whether she realized it at this moment or not. I mean, we talk to dogs and cats all the time, and sometimes it feels like they understand us, right? Saya went on to draw the same connection between people and Digimon. Even if the little critters couldn't speak themselves, perhaps they could begin to understand humans and human language. Kosuke's software tools, which granted humans forcible control over Digimon through software commands, were the only way to communicate with Digimon at the time. If Digimon could somehow understand natural language, though, no one would need specialized knowledge of the software to communicate with these AI beings. Yeah, that would be pretty handy, Yulin admitted. In fact, sometimes I think I can already hear Agumon's voice, Saya blurted out. You can hear Agumon talking to you? Yeah, when we're mind-linked, I mean. I'm pretty sure someone's talking to me, anyway. So, our partner Digimon might be able to talk to us when we're inside the Digicore. But you've never reported that. You have to keep it a secret. If they think I'm hearing things, they might kick me off this project, Saya pleaded. That much was true. They could always push her off in favor of an alternate candidate. It didn't help that she'd been the slowest of them to adapt to mind-linking. She was also the only one who vomited after each session, which made it all the more surprising that by all available metrics, she shared the strongest bond with her partner Digimon. Everyone expected that her mind-link with Agumon would produce the clearest footage of the digital world to date. What does it say? I don't know, but it feels friendly, like it's calling my name. Oh, it's glad that I've come back to play, Saya said. All things that were too squishy and metaphorical to properly quantify. But these creatures certainly had intelligence and personalities. It's just like you said, Saya continued. Said what? Connecting with Digimon is incredible. And incredibly dangerous. Ah, yeah, like encountering an extraterrestrial. The discovery of Digimon wasn't like the discovery of a new species, really. If anything, Yulin figured it was likely that humans were operating on the incorrect assumptions that Digimon intelligence and society were below those of humans. She gave voice to her concern. We think we've discovered the digital world, but what if we're the ones who've been discovered? All the more reason for us to continue our studies. The network has already caused all worlds to collide, Saya said, acknowledging Yulin's question. It was like pouring milk into coffee. The two couldn't be separated again. Humanity couldn't simply cut itself from the network and ignore the digital world. My dad thinks you're the most important member of the team, you know? She added with a smile, abruptly changing the subject. Me? Not Kosuke? Yulin said, her voice rising in surprise. Nope, he's just a younger version of my dad. And I'm his daughter, so it's hard to separate me from that label. But you make this feel more like an official operation. Like a company. Saya said to a blank stare and silence from Yulin. Here, I'll give you an example. Say we make a mistake or start heading down the wrong path on our research. You're basically the only one who could stop us. At least that's what I think. Wait, what? What are you talking about? I know it's a lot. It's freezing. Can't believe that vending machine still has cold drinks in the dead of winter. Kosuke grouched as he walked up to Yulin and Saya. He handed each of them a hot drink. Yeah, it's chilly. Wind's pretty strong too. We can head back if you're ready, Yulin offered, hugging her own shoulders and giving a performative shiver. Let's stay just a little longer, Saya said. I'm good either way. It's been a minute since I got to just stand around and zone out, Kosuke non-committally concurred. I'll be in the car then, Yulin said, resolutely walking away. She got in, fired up the engine, and turned on the heat. She watched Saya and Kosuke huddle together, looking up at the clear night sky, where the moon was the only thing returning their gaze. She rested her hands on the steering wheel and watched them through the windshield. Why'd they have to make such a display of everything? Slightly irritated at the showy affection, she pulled out her phone and took a sneaky photo of the two lovebirds. Ryusenji Electronics' Tartarus program was at last ready for its debut in Test Chamber 4. On Professor Ryusenji's orders, the attack team consisting of Yulin, Kosuke, and Saya were to simultaneously mind-link the Digimon. Yulin was the captain, Kosuke the engineer and navigator, and Saya the one-woman survey team. They boarded a digital observation vessel they dubbed the Tartarus probe, and prepared to begin the first direct observation of the digital world through their partner Digimon, Palmon, Tentomon, and Agumon. It was an abject failure.